The city lights flickered like stars brought down to earth, scattered across the streets and the tall glass buildings. It was the night before the biggest event of the year, a global film awards ceremony where the world's attention would be fixed on one stage. Keanu Reeves sat in the quiet corner of his hotel suite, looking out the window at the rain sliding down the glass. He had been in the industry long enough to know that moments like these could shape a career, define a legacy. Tomorrow was meant to be his moment. Yet, as he sat there, sipping a cup of tea instead of rehearsing an acceptance speech, his thoughts drifted to someone else. Ana de Armas. She was younger, newer to the world stage, but already carried herself with the grace of someone who had been in the spotlight for decades. They had met during the filming of a small project years ago, when neither of them knew if the film would even make it past post-production. But it did, and that small project had been a quiet turning point in both of their lives. Keanu remembered her then, nervous but determined, her laughter breaking through the stress of long shooting nights. They had stayed friends since, but lately he had seen the pressure growing heavier on her shoulders. Tomorrow night, she was nominated for her first major award. She had been waiting for this moment, working for it, dreaming about it since before she could even speak fluent English. Keanu had watched her rehearse interviews, choose gowns, and try to hide her anxiety under a smile. He recognized that look, the quiet hope that you might finally be seen for who you are, not just for the parts you play. Keanu had his own nomination, too, and in most years he might have felt the usual mix of excitement and nerves. But this year was different. He could feel it in his chest, that strange pull telling him this wasn't about him. That night, Ana called. Her voice was soft, like she was trying not to let the world hear her fears.
"I don't know if I can do this, Keanu,"
she whispered.
"What if I mess it up? What if I don't belong there?"
He listened without interrupting. He had heard versions of this before, from actors at every stage of their careers. But from her, it sounded different. Not just fear, but the weight of everything she had endured to get here. "Ana," he said gently, "you've already earned your place. Tomorrow isn't about proving you belong. It's about letting them see what we already know." There was silence on the line, and then a shaky laugh. "You always make it sound simple." "That's because it is," he replied. "You just have to walk in there as yourself. The rest will follow." When they hung up, Keanu sat in the quiet again, the tea cold in his hands. He knew something she didn't. The event organizers had told him earlier that day there might be a surprise. If he won, they would give him the closing speech of the night. It was the kind of spotlight moment actors dreamed about. But Keanu's mind was already somewhere else. What if he could give that spotlight to her instead? He didn't know how yet, but the idea took root in him like a quiet promise. The rain outside grew heavier, tapping against the glass like a clock counting down the hours. Tomorrow, the cameras would flash, the crowd would cheer, and the headlines would write themselves. But for Keanu, the real story wasn't about winning. It was about making sure someone else had the chance to shine. He leaned back, eyes on the city lights, and made a silent vow. If the moment came, he would give it away. And he would do it so that no one, not even Ana, would see it coming. The next evening, the air around the city seemed charged, as if the streets themselves knew something important was about to happen. Black cars lined the entrance of the Grand Theater, their glossy surfaces reflecting the golden lights strung across the building. Photographers crowded behind barriers, shouting names, their camera flashes cutting through the dusk like bursts of lightning. Keanu's car rolled up slowly. Inside, he sat quietly, his hands resting loosely on his knees. He could already hear the roar of the crowd outside, but his mind wasn't on himself. He was thinking about Ana, where she was, how she was feeling, whether she was breathing through the nerves like he had told her to. The driver opened his door, and the sound hit him all at once. Cheers, camera shutters, voices calling his name. Keanu smiled politely, walking with his usual calm stride. He stopped for photos, answered a few quick questions, and waved to familiar faces. To the crowd, it looked like another perfect red carpet moment. But under the surface, he was scanning the crowd for her. Then he saw her. Anna had just stepped out of her car at the far end of the carpet. She wore a simple but stunning silver gown that caught every bit of light, making her look almost unreal. Her hair was swept back, and though her smile was graceful, he could tell it was hiding the storm of emotions she was feeling. He knew that smile. The one you put on when you're holding yourself together with sheer willpower. She moved slowly down the carpet, answering questions with careful words, glancing toward the entrance as if it were a safe haven she needed to reach. Keanu stayed where he was for a moment, watching her, then began walking toward her. The press noticed instantly, two of the biggest stars of the night crossing the carpet toward each other. When she saw him, her smile changed. It softened, became real. She looked relieved, like the sight of him had pulled her out of the noise. "You look incredible," Keanu said when they met, his voice just loud enough for her to hear over the chaos.
Thank you,
She replied, her voice trembling slightly.
I think I'm going to pass out.
He chuckled, leaning closer so the microphones wouldn't catch his words. "You're not. You're going to walk in there like you own the place, and I'll be right behind you." Something shifted in her shoulders, the tiniest release of tension. They walked together for the rest of the carpet, pausing for joint photos, sharing brief whispered comments that made them both smile. To the outside world, it looked like two friends enjoying the night. To Anna, it was an anchor she desperately needed. Inside the theater, the lights dimmed and the ceremony began. Speeches, laughter, applause. The rhythm of these events was familiar to Keanu, almost like a script he'd memorized. But tonight, every beat felt heavier, because the moment he'd been thinking about for 24 hours was getting closer. His category was called about halfway through the night. The screen filled with clips from the nominees' films, each met with polite applause. Keanu's scene came up, the one critics had been talking about for months, and the audience reacted with a warm cheer. He kept his expression calm, though his heart beat harder. The envelope was opened. The name was read. And the award goes to Keanu Reeves. The applause swelled. Keanu stood, accepting hugs and handshakes on his way to the stage. The host handed him the golden statue, the weight of it solid in his hands. He stepped to the microphone, the lights blinding, the crowd silent. And that was when he decided this was the moment. He looked out over the audience, the rehearsed thank you speech in his mind fading away. Instead, he took a breath and began speaking from somewhere deeper. "This is an incredible honor," he said slowly, his voice steady. "But tonight, I want to do something different." There was a ripple of confusion in the crowd. "There's someone here who inspires me more than I can put into words. Someone whose talent, dedication, and kindness make the rest of us better. Tonight is her night as much as anyone's. Maybe more." He turned, scanning the audience until his eyes found Anna's. She froze, her lips parting slightly as the cameras swung toward her. "Anna," Keanu continued, "you deserve this spotlight. So, I'd like to give it to you." Gasps spread through the theater. No one moved for a moment. Then, slowly, Keanu stepped away from the microphone, holding the award out toward her. And in that instant, the night changed. For a moment, the whole theater felt frozen. The audience, the hosts, the cameras, even the air itself seemed to pause. Anna sat there, her hands clenched together in her lap, unsure if she had heard him right. Her name wasn't on that envelope. This wasn't her category. And yet Keanu Reeves, holding one of the highest honors of the night, was offering it to her in front of the world. The crowd didn't quite know how to react. There was a low murmur, the kind that ripples through people when they're not sure if they're witnessing something scripted or something real. But the look in Keanu's eyes was enough to tell anyone paying attention. This was real. Anna shook her head slightly, mouthing, "No, you can't." Her heart was pounding. She could feel the heat of the spotlight on her, even though she hadn't moved from her seat. Keanu didn't lower his hand. He stood there on the stage, still, patient, as if willing her to stand. The host, sensing the weight of the moment, stepped back without saying a word. Anna rose slowly from her chair. She could feel hundreds of eyes following her every movement, flashes going off in the dark. Each step toward the stage felt unreal, like walking through water. Keanu's expression didn't change. Calm, steady, encouraging. When she finally reached him, she whispered,
"You can't give me this, Keanu. It's yours."
He leaned in so only she could hear.
"Awards are just objects. Moments. Moments are what matter. This one is yours."
The words sank deep, and something inside her broke. Not in pain, but in the way walls collapse when you realize you don't need them anymore. Slowly, reluctantly, she took the award from his hands. The weight of it surprised her, heavier than it looked, warm from where he had been holding it. She turned toward the microphone, still in disbelief. Her voice was soft at first.
I don't know what to say. I didn't expect to be standing here tonight."
She glanced at Keanu, who gave her the smallest nod. But maybe that's the point. Sometimes the people we admire most are the ones who step aside so we can step forward. The audience erupted into applause, some people already on their feet. She spoke briefly about the film industry, about kindness in a world obsessed with competition, about how this moment wasn't about winning, but about lifting each other up. She ended by thanking Keanu, not for the award, but for believing in her when she doubted herself. When they walked off stage together, the applause still thundered. Backstage, Anna handed the award back to him. "You know they can't actually let me keep this," she said with a nervous laugh. "I know," he replied, smiling, "but you'll remember tonight more than anything they engrave on that trophy." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes shining. "You just changed the way I see everything." He shook his head gently. "No, Anna. You were always ready to shine. All I did was move the light." Outside, the rest of the show carried on. But in that quiet backstage corner, away from the cameras, a seed of something unshakable had been planted, respect so deep it could never be undone. Neither of them knew it yet, but the night's headlines wouldn't be about who won or lost. They would be about the man who gave away his moment, and the woman who learned how to stand in it. The rest of the ceremony passed like a blur for Anna. She sat back in her seat, still feeling the phantom weight of the award in her hands, her mind replaying Keanu's words again and again. Every time she glanced at him, he seemed completely at ease, as if nothing unusual had happened at all. But in her chest, it felt like the world had shifted. When the final curtain call came and the audience began to rise, Anna found herself holding her phone. Dozens of notifications were already pouring in. Texts, missed calls, social media alerts. She didn't even have to check to know why. As they left the theater, the crowd outside erupted into cheers. Photographers shouted over one another, their flashes relentless. "Anna! Keanu! Over here!" "Keanu, why did you give her your moment?" "Anna, how did it feel?" Keanu gave a polite smile but didn't answer, gently guiding her through the chaos toward their car. Once inside, the noise faded into a muffled hum, the tinted windows a shield from the outside world. "You're trending in 20 countries," she said, staring at her phone screen. "That was fast," he replied, amused. "There's videos everywhere," she went on. People are calling it the most selfless moment in awards history. She turned the phone so he could see a clip of himself on stage, holding out the trophy to her. Keanu glanced at it briefly, then looked back out the window. The internet moves fast. Tomorrow they'll be talking about something else.
Not this time, she said softly. This is different.
When they arrived at the after-party, the atmosphere was electric. People kept stopping them, some just to shake Keanu's hand, others to hug Anna. Directors, producers, actors from every generation wanted to tell them they had witnessed something rare. At one point, a well-known director pulled Keanu aside. You know you could have used that moment for yourself, right? Promoted your next film, secured funding for anything you wanted. Keanu just smiled. Sometimes the best investment is in someone else. Across the room, Anna overheard the exchange. The words settled into her like warm sunlight, cutting through the last bits of doubt she'd been carrying. Later in the night, they found a quiet spot on the balcony, away from the music and chatter. The city stretched out below, glittering under the night sky.
I keep thinking about what you did, Anna said, leaning against the railing, and I don't know how to thank you.
You don't have to, Keanu replied. You'll have your own moment soon enough, and when it comes, you'll know what to do with it. She thought about that for a long time. She didn't just want her moment. She wanted to be the kind of person who could give one away, too. Inside, the party carried on, but on that balcony, something unspoken passed between them. It wasn't romance, though there was warmth. It wasn't obligation, though there was gratitude. It was the quiet recognition of two people who understood the value of lifting someone else higher. Neither of them realized it yet, but the days ahead would test that understanding in ways neither had expected. Because acts of kindness, once seen by the world, often invite challenges, and not all of them come from strangers. By morning, the story had gone far beyond Hollywood. News outlets across the globe ran headlines about Keanu's gesture. Video clips from the ceremony were everywhere, from late-night talk shows to heartfelt reaction videos filmed in people's living rooms. Some called it the purest moment in awards history. Others called it proof that humility still existed in a competitive world. But not everyone saw it that way. As Anna scrolled through her phone in bed, her feed was a mix of love and criticism. Strangers she had never met questioned whether she had deserved to stand on that stage at all. Some accused her of taking away from the rightful winner. A few even suggested the whole thing had been planned for publicity. It stung more than she expected. Her phone buzzed. Keanu's name lit up the screen. "You awake?" he asked when she answered.
Yeah,
she replied, her voice a little dull.
You've seen the comments, right?
I have, he said. Ignore them.
Easy for you to say. They're not calling you a fraud.
There was a pause.
Anna, if people are talking, it means they noticed. If they're doubting, it means they care enough to form an opinion. But the only truth that matters is what actually happened. And you know the truth.
She sat up, running a hand through her hair.
I just don't want people to think I took something that wasn't mine.
You didn't take anything, he said firmly. I gave it to you, and I don't regret it. Still, the tension lingered. That afternoon, her agent called, worried about optics. Producers wanted reassurance that Anna could handle media pressure. Invitations to interviews came in rapid fire, some of them worded as if they wanted her to justify why she accepted Keanu's gesture at all. The industry could be kind, but it could also turn on you overnight. Anna knew that. Keanu, meanwhile, faced his own share of quiet disapproval. One veteran actor told him privately that he had made a mistake, that moments like the one he gave away were rare, and that the industry didn't reward people who stepped aside. Keanu only smiled. Maybe that's why it was worth doing. The next week was a whirlwind.
Anna and Keanu appeared together on a late-night show where the host immediately asked about the moment. The audience cheered when the clip played, but the question hung heavy in the air. Why did you do it? Keanu leaned forward, speaking simply. Because in that moment, I realized the right thing wasn't to take the spotlight, but to pass it on. Sometimes the best way to shine is to make sure someone else is seen. Anna glanced at him, knowing those words were protecting her again, shifting the focus away from any doubt and back onto kindness itself. But she also knew she couldn't hide behind him forever. If she wanted this moment to mean something, she would have to prove in her own way that she deserved to stand in it. And that chance would come sooner than she expected, in the form of an unexpected call for help from someone she barely knew. The call came late on a Thursday evening. Anna had just wrapped a long day on set when her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. She almost let it go to voicemail, but something made her answer. On the other end was a young actress named Lucia, her voice shaking. She had just been cast in her first major role, but the studio was already pushing her to make changes she wasn't comfortable with. Changes that would erase the very reason she'd been chosen. She had no leverage, no allies, and she was terrified that speaking up would end her career before it began. I didn't know who else to call, Lucia admitted. I saw what Keanu did for you. I thought maybe you'd understand. Anna sat there in silence for a moment. Her mind went back to that night, to the stage lights and the weight of the award in her hands. She remembered Keanu's words, "When your moment comes, you'll know what to do with it." "Tell me everything," Anna said. They spoke for over an hour. By the time Lucia finished, Anna had already made up her mind. The next morning, she called her agent and asked for a meeting with the studio heads. At first, they tried to brush her off, insisting the matter didn't concern her, but Anna pushed, politely, firmly, refusing to let the conversation end. Finally, they agreed. In that meeting, Anna didn't speak for herself. She spoke for Lucia. She explained why the changes were wrong, how they would strip away the authenticity that had made the role special in the first place. She reminded them that the industry's greatest moments came from truth, not conformity. It was risky. She knew she could be labeled difficult, but she also knew that if she stayed silent, she'd be betraying the very lesson Keanu had taught her. After 2 tense hours, the studio relented. Lucia would keep her role exactly as it was. When Anna told her, Lucia cried. "I don't know how to thank you." Anna smiled through the phone. "You don't have to. Just remember this feeling. One day, someone else will need you to do the same." That night, Anna called Keanu. "I did it," she said. "I gave my moment to someone else." There was a pause, then a warm laugh. "How did it feel?" "Terrifying," she admitted, "but also right." "Then you get it now," Keanu said. "It's not about moments, it's about what you do with them." Months later, the noise around the awards faded, replaced by new headlines, new stories. But for Anna, one thing had changed forever. She no longer saw the spotlight as something to claim, but as something to share. And when people asked her about that night with Keanu, she would always smile and say, "He didn't just give me the stage. He taught me how to give it away." And somewhere out there, Lucia, and maybe one day someone she helped, would do the same. Because kindness, like light, travels further when it's passed on.